Hello, everybody. Welcome back to DFN number 29. Or it's at 30. Who knows what happened at 30? Something special might happen at 30, or it might not. I don't know. Is there anything planned, Jason? I'm not sure.
Did you change shirts?
I did, yeah. I just change shirts sometimes. It's a thing I do. It's crazy.
I was gonna say, I was like, you look kind of different, but you definitely looking more hench. My God, how much are you working out?
Liquid shirt.
Are you hinting at Liquid picking up a Deadlock team?
Oh, what's that?
Are you hinting at Liquid picking up a Deadlock team?
I'm not. This is just the first available shirt. It's not even ironed, Jason. Normally, I would steam it or iron it because I'm not a plebeian. But you know, you gotta work with what you got.
Because you got such big enough muscles that it just stretches across your body. But speaking of big muscles, Abrahams have some big muscles as well. Taking a 2-0 victory over Virtus.pro last week was very impressive and I think kind of unexpected. I don't know what's going to happen when it comes to this week. I know my personal views on how it's going to shape up, but I'm not going to say that publicly just yet. And neither can you, ZP, because you're not on the show this part or in this segment. You have to wait for the next one. But we can see here, Abrahams finally their first DFN victory here, Dan, and it took them quite a few tries to get there.
I mean, you gotta keep trying. That's the only way to win. Just try and try again. And it's gonna be interesting with the form that we just saw VP in, whether Abrahams will be able to overcome it again and actually make it somewhat of a consistent result. It does seem like One Win have struggled to adjust into the new patch into a way that I suppose at least works against VP, because that was quite the trouncing from VP from start to finish. So I'm hoping we get a better series here. But with that said, I think why don't we bring in Jake, because Jake is our manalist. Manalist.
That's me, the manalist. I'm here.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Today I'm just a bit silly. I think it's because I've been casting like every day for like 2 weeks. So I'm just gone a bit loopy. So my apologies for that. But how are you feeling, Jake, with this new rivalry that we have at the top?
I'm excited. I think it was cool to see Abrahams come out on top, make that upset victory last time. And although it was a 2-0, the games were quite close. They really were down to the wire. And so I think it's kind of anybody's game to win. I definitely have my eyes, though, on players like Hoot, who had really big games in that money match series in the last week. And so, just curious to see what they bring. I think this roster has really impressed me. And as good as VP look, I think they're in for a real knockdown, drag-out brawl. I think the draft is also going to be very key in this money match.
You heard that, ZP. I'm converting Jake into the Hoot fan club. I think your card's in the mail, Jake. It's definitely on the way to be shipped over towards you. But 100% agree, man. Like Hoot has been a hoot to watch. I think not only him though, to be fair, because you think back to the last week, his pocket was phenomenal. I think he was on like an insane kill streak, like 5 kill streak, 8 minutes in. His Calico did some serious work, but also you got to give some support to Tass, because his Haze, the way he's been playing it with Hoot, has been this like 2-man brawler team in the jungle, catching you off guard, putting down so much work, because Tass is playing with that like slowing hex, that kind of supporty build of Haze that we've seen of past times. And not to mention, Saint has had a lot of like individual crucial moments on a couple of different heroes to really pull things back, thinking towards like his Kelvins before in the back. But this is I think they should be the team to beat. But honestly, I'm still favoring Virtus.pro in this matchup, because for me, they're not a team that loses lightly, and they typically come back stronger in the following week. And we've already seen how they just destroyed One Win in that last match.
It's kind of like, if you guys play that game Dead Cells.
Of course.
Yeah, so basically, or like Hades, it's like that's basically what you're saying Virtus.pro basically is. This is just like the video game, and then they're just like, every time they make a run, they'll eventually die, but they come back stronger every single time and just get further and deeper. So I totally agree with that. I think we've certainly seen that be a consistent thread with them. I think one of the things that was characteristic of VP always was their capacity to lose well and to team fight. And I think we saw both of those things in the last match. Those are defining features of their victory, and I love that consistent thread that they've always had, that capacity to have that strong macro play, regardless as to what shape the game takes.
Yeah, this is a team that I think is especially good when they play for the objectives and they play for the team fighting. But, Abrahams kind of beat them at their own game last week and was able to go toe-to-toe in those team fights. So I'm curious to see some of these picks like Seven with Kelvin, Lash, that give you just some of that priority, especially around the earn fights in the mid game. To me, strikes me as potentially some contested picks. But of course, like you guys said, there's so many heroes that we really want to get high prio. You know, I think Pocket has really risen. Infernus has been played more and more, I think, as a high prio pick for the carry role. And Zergy had a great game on him last match. So definitely every draft matters. The opening band's also quite important here. And Abraham's first pick for them. We'll see what they end up taking with that.
I think Jake, you hit the nail on the head too when you were talking about Abrahams, that the draft is going to be such a big priority for them. Because as we're talking about, like, Pocket having a massive glow up, Calico as well are going to be two of like the big focus targets that we're expecting Abrahams to go for here. And then Virtus.pro, if they don't get Pocket, if that gets taken away, if they ban a Calico, what's Michaelis going to be on? I wouldn't necessarily expect a Paradox because they've really shied away from using Paradox. But then again, we've seen Michaelis on Pocket so often that they're not really playing Paradox because he's on the Pocket. But this could be really interesting to see, like, what Virtus.pro have been able to bounce back with. But more importantly, like Abrahams, how they developed even further, because their macro play was the biggest glow up for that team over the past week. So they finally learned and sussed out, like, how are they going to play the macro a lot better?
Well, are we going to see the first pick Warden again? I somehow feel like it's unlikely. I am curious, Jake, if you think that One Win's interpretation of their, you know, what comp or draft they should play, if that was somewhat incorrect, because how you said Abrahams were able to defeat VP, I wasn't here last week. It sounds like the way that Abrahams drafted was with a different philosophy to One Win.
Yeah, I think they really, wanted to go for the team fight head-to-head, where One Win has continued to play for this, like, a little bit more pick-off-oriented style, where, honestly, Holiday and Paradox have kind of fallen off in terms of pick rate. We see teams draft without either of them, prioritizing Lash more, where, of course, Lash is going to be way worse at getting, like, an individual pick-off, and like, you know, that in that chaotic skirmishing style, but he's obviously such a more powerful hero in the team fight. Lash ulti, one of the best ults in the game for team fighting and like making comebacks, turn around fights around objectives. That makes it hard to push walkers. And I think as the game has evolved, the teams have been focused more and more on major objective team fights, and drafting, you know, leads in that same direction. You want the heroes who can, you know, really perform in those key moments of the game.
Don't you worry, I got you.
This is interesting.
Second pick Infernus is really high prio. Like, it's crazy to see how much Infernus has risen. I mean, Infernus was being played for a long time, but it was like always the sixth pick, and you're like, yeah, well, like, I'm okay. I guess we need to carry, but second pick is huge.
I think the reason for this is because they take the two biggest heroes with anti-heal. Because anti-heal is so hard to get these days. You take away that, and you also have a Geist as your opposing side, so you really can limit the amount of healing you do. The Geist, Kelvin, if they eventually go into a Warden as well. I think this is kind of a smart adaptation for
Lash.
Take away all the anti-healing you possibly can and see where to go from there. I'm worried about for Abrahams, though. What's Hoot going to play? Because, like, Together's not been able to step up to be that carry that they've needed. It's been Hoot to have to do that. And with his Pocket taken away, with his Calico banned, I don't know what he's going to have that level of impact on.
Wouldn't mind like a 7 for Hoot. Could be something they would look at.
You need a monster.
And they're gonna go. They get the Shiv Kelvin, so they're gonna just tank the mass anti-heal. I do feel like Shiv with this new like spirit, like the mystical regeneration into the I can't remember what it's called, but the 3K upgrade of that item that you heal on every ability cast is kind of insane for Shiv. And so, like, even with the anti-heals, you know, debuff remover, you know, at least for Infernus can help a lot. But we've seen teams also go with this like super heavy frontline style with Geist, Kelvin, Shiv, and it sometimes has not worked that well. And I love the Warden response. Is like one of the best heroes at punishing a massive grouped up team fight, and one of the only heroes who can step up to Kelvin inside the dome when he's trying to do an earn drop.
Well, I have a question about where you guys see Mo and Krill at the moment, because do you give him value, like, in having the lockdown, especially because this is much more of a death body comp, you know, a Geist, Kelvin, Shiv, you can play all those pretty close to it.
I think it's just too easy to help your friends out. If your group, like, Mo is great for punishing individuals who are alone, but, you know, if your teammates are all around, then, like, you're just gonna immediately punish the Mo for ulting, or you can, like, I think Rescue Beam has been a huge problem for him, because you, like, pull Mo in while he's comboing, and then Mo dies, he's way out of position.
Of course.
So I feel like it's going to be played last, especially these two teams. I really think not so much single target, and it's going to be very heavy on team fighting and what gives them the best chance in the objective. And Abraham's going to ban the 7. I'm actually kind of, in a way, I'm surprised by that. Maybe 7 would have been really strong against them with how much group up, like, frontline they're already playing, where they are vulnerable to just like 7 ulting over the top without hard stuns.
Pick Sinclair Virtus.pro. You pick Sinclair, you get your own frozen shelter. You get your own soul exchange. You get someone low if you need to, and you more importantly deny it away from the last stand.
You were looking to summon a god, right?
I'm more worried about the Lash. I think they're sort of forced to pick Lash here on VP because I think they're too scared to give it to Abrahams given the draft they have so far. But I think Abrahams does have the dome to potentially counter the Lash ult, so it'll be a little bit less consistent. Both teams, though, having pretty aggressive, pretty solid team fight. Virtus.pro have massive AoE damage, and Abrahams have like incredible tanking potential, so definitely going to be interesting to see them clash.
Well, on the Kelvin note with Lash, you have like a 1-2 punch for Virtus.pro, because if you do get them to Frozen Shelter all grouped up, Pocket comes in and pops an Affliction on top of your entire team and does ridiculous damage that you're not going to be able to sustain on. So it can actually work really well with the way Virtus.pro set things up.
True. I like the Bebop, though, as like a counter to Lash. Can hook him out of the ulti. Could be even good against Infernus, who sometimes is like easier to catch since he's relying on just like moving fast with Flame Dash rather than like an instant movement jump, where, you know, Bebop can maybe be a little bit more consistent on hooking him. And I like the Mirage too. They were needing, I think, a little bit more long range late game carry, and Mirage is just maybe one of the best in the game at that exact role in terms of like he's so consistent at getting farmed with the global TP, and then is just a freakish threat in the late game. Also has Tornado. You can instant dodge the Lash ulti. Yeah, good matchups there.
Gotta be a Sinclair, right? Yeah, it had to be a Sinclair. That Hex is just going to be too good of value for you, because even if you do hit a good Death Slam, you Hex them all, your Affliction is going to do even more damage on top of that. Or you can use a Hex to prevent Lash from losing his Death Slam as long as you connect onto Bebop here. I mean, if you have a team that kind of wants to group up around this like Geist, Kelvin, Shiv to push into, Sinclair's just too good, and not to mention deny it away. So this has been a very strong, I think, draft phase out of Virtus.pro, and even the Ivy on top of that. Ooh. That's insane. Like this is such a good comp out of VP.
Sinclair doesn't have the best ulti steals. I do think Kelvin Dome is good, but it's just like so situational. Like you know, to use it properly, I think you prefer on Sinclair having aggressive ultis to steal that you can like proactively use, like Lash ulti and Warden ulti. But I think maybe they were too scared of giving it away, where Abrahams would have had a dream Sinclair game on their team. And they're going to go with the Wraith, who's dropped a bit in prio. But we have seen, I mean, actually, I kind of really liked seeing this as the closeout, even though Wraith has looked like maybe a little vulnerable at times, where I love the idea of Wraith and Mirage being just these like insane turrets in the backline. And then you're not as reliant on Kelvin and Shiv and Geist actually killing things. They just need to make space and zone away the opposition. And if you're not getting on top of Mirage and Wraith, you're gonna die. Like those, you can't really out DPS those heroes in like a long skirmishing trade fight. And then Bebop can, you know, pull people out of position, can punish Ivy or Lash when they're trying to get tricky with the ult. I kind of like Abraham's draft here. I think this is less committed to the front line, and I actually think that's a really smart move for them. The Kelvin has enough to heal; he's doing just fine. But then the real carries are going to be Mirage and Wraith, and Bebop is going to be really awkward to be playing around in this game.
I do worry a little bit, though, is that what if we see a world where Michaelis, Zergy, or maybe not necessarily Zergy, they just kind of ignore the front line and instead go towards the back line? Like, realistically, can Jam side survive against the damage, assuming he's on the Wraith, like Michaelis can put down if Michaelis has a strong start? But obviously, you do have some P with Bebop. The Frozen Shelter can definitely come in clutch here. But also, for more important, like, Abrahams doesn't have that, like, heavy-hitting combo of getting in your jungle to look for those initial kills, unless they want to like group up as like the Geist, Kelvin, Shiv. But when they're not on the map, it's pretty obvious where they're going to be.
So which way are you guys like fully leaning here? Is one way convincing more than the other?
I'm actually leaning Abrahams after seeing these drafts. I saw this in NA. I thought the Mirage Wraith combo looked kind of sick, because even if you can get on top of one of them, if they're both super farmed, it's really awkward because they can both kind of like peel each other. They can both kind of like save each other. And they're both have this like really powerful mobility skill. So like the Tornado is insane for getting you out of trouble, and for the Wraith blink. So they're going to be sitting in the back line poking you with like Sharpshooter or something. At least Mirage might, but even if they don't buy that item, right? Like they're basically playing long range. And then if you do close the gap on them, they have like one more movement skill to kite back one more time. And I think that's going to be really powerful and like kind of annoying for VP to like successfully catch them. I feel like this Warden ulti, if you can stick on Shiv and Geist, it's good. But then, like, are you caught in the trap of trying to kill Shiv and Geist when the true carries are going to be farming and crushing the team fight? And I feel like Infernus and Pocket are good against Shiv and Geist and like anti-healing them, burning them down. But I'm not sure if they're going to be able to connect onto the Mirage Wraith. I kind of like the Abraham's draft here. I think they've got a little edge, especially with Bebop potentially countering the Lash. I mean, in theory, you can always hook the Lash ulti, and that's a very short cooldown to be playing around on Lash, so it makes it much harder to ulti than you might normally want.
A quick update, we'll be getting into the game momentarily, but someone has a Windows update, one of the players. So well, I was getting an update or something. I saw you like grinning at my, I don't know what was going on my screen because everything just blacks out for me. So I don't even know if I'm on camera or not, but
I thought that was just the face of a man who's been casting for like 2 weeks straight. He was just like, where's my bed? That's the face I was seeing. But awesome. I think I look towards like VP side. I'm looking towards like a natural suppressor build for Infernus. Like he'll naturally build into that item, so reducing the attack speed quite heavily. But I also see a world where Warden's going to build slowing hex. So if we're talking about the escape mechanisms out of like Wraith and Mirage, that's going to be a very good counter to that. If you're just going to rush past that front line out of Abraham's to get in towards the back line. I think for VP side, they're going to be very dependent on Lash, Pocket, and Sinclair. Even Ivy in there as a mix too, because you have like so much damn zone control with like Last Stand and with the whole bog mechanics of Ivy, who also is going to be applying a lot of like anti-heal with the way that she's going to be building into this one. I think if Mirage and Wraith can get ahead and stay ahead, then yeah, like Abraham's for sure. I'm looking towards them. But I think, in my opinion, like Virtus.pro just look like they're going to be stronger. But I'm also a little bit biased because I think Virtus.pro are going to win this series without Abraham's having that trick of the Calico and the Haze.
How do you feel about this logic, Jake?
I just don't see how you fight in the late game for VP. Like maybe if they're really far ahead, I feel like I'm like, how do you deal with this? Like unless Mirage and Wraith are like destroyed in the game, if they're just even net worth, I think they're just going to be like monster carries, and VP are kind of like a one and done with their initiation. Like I don't think they can actually stand up in a long fight against Mirage Wraith. They need to like get kills, and like same as last game, how VP was a team who could just play defensive, look for objectives, force fights, play as a team. They're feeling good, and it was one win who was like, okay, we need to get kills, and then we'll progress from there in the team fight. I feel like that puts you in a worse strategic position. Like obviously, so much comes down to the play and a couple big team fights. You know, Warden. I think maybe if Warden, I would love to see Warden build Spirit this game and go like Lightning Scroll, because I think they need like a hard initiation into team fight stomp type of a fight. I think it's just, I'm worried for them, especially with Kelvin, with the mobility. Like debuff removers almost guaranteed going to be built on Mirage and Wraith this game to purge all the Warden stuff and Infernus effects. And then, you know, are you diving past, like if Geist and Shiv have big games too, it's not so easy to just run past those heroes. They kind of start cutting you up, start killing off your back line.
Yeah.
And I just think the objective fighting is what the game's going to come down to. And I just rather be Abraham's. I think you start, and Mirage just standing there shooting people is like, you have to do something on VP, but I'm not sure what you do with the threat of the Geist and the Shiv and the Calvin in your face and ready to counter engage you really hard.
Well, I feel like you've made such a strong case. And just again to update everyone, we have had an internet outage. In the meantime, Listic's internet has exploded. Apparently, the Wi-Fi has gone down. So, but first, is he on Wi-Fi? Okay, so I'll be
hey, don't hate on Wi-Fi. I'm on Wi-Fi.
He's already
too,
dead
okay?
to me. Like, how can you game on Wi-Fi?
Come on, wired connections, guys. Wired connections. This is basics. This is basics.
Hey, in Italy, they don't have multiple ports and walls. Okay, I don't want to run like a 20-meter long cable.
My cable goes through 3 rooms, bro, and I don't care.
I also asked chat to like feed us questions to keep us going through like what could have been a long pause, but that's not happened. So now I'm gonna have to like answer some of the questions in chat, or I'll feel bad.
I mean, again, Payne has a really good question.
Oh, here's a good question.
Again, Payne. Shirtless stream win, Dan.
You know what? I only do like dumbbell press. I don't actually like bench like with a barbell, which is what I think most people.
That's not the question.
What's your dumbbell press? What's your dumbbell press, TDK?
I do like incline with like anywhere between 80 or 90s.
Oh, incline with the 90s. Goodness gracious. Okay, brother.
That yearns to be filled.
Yo, you never expected that I actually bench like 600. That's right.
That's true. DP is gonna get on his Abrams arc soon. TM.
I mean, get on it. If he's benching 600, I think he's already there, man.
Fair enough. All right, not really sure where to go with this, but the game started now. How do we transition, Jason?
Well, speaking of benching, we're going to see those bench presses come out of TAS on this Bebop. I don't know how that works, actually. No, I'm just going to stop because that did not make any sense. And I had no idea where to go with that. Instead, I'll talk about how these lane matchups are currently sitting up with Michaelis. Instead of playing on a side lane this time, he's going to be playing in the mid lane with Demov on the Sinclair, and Listic will be picking up the Lash for his team. On the other side, Hoot going to be on the Geist. And again, I'm going to point him out in particular just because he has been one of the best additions to this Abraham squad. He has definitely been one of the biggest playmakers for the team. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can be a playmaker on Geist here.
Well, I feel like we should... Oh, beautiful. Perfect. Because I was about to ask you, Jake, what you think of the lane matchups. Because that's a thing that we do, but we didn't do it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Shiv Kelvin, just like a timeless classic. I think the Warden Ivy should be all right. They build a lot of sustain and just tank through it. But yeah, I mean, maybe the Warden will be okay as long as Warden's ulti is on tempo. Like the real problem is if Shiv Kelvin get their ultis up first and they just like int you under the tower with the frozen shelters. Feels like not so much you can do. Mid lane, I think, is going to be basically just on TAS to hit hooks, but I don't expect there to be much action because if it's pocket, he'll probably just play his way out of this. And then the other side lane should be maybe a little bit weak for VP. I think Wraith Geist might put a lot of pressure on as far as poking these guys under tower. And yeah, I'm just not... Lash Infernus seems like kind of a weak lane to me. Not to see, though. A few minutes in is when we'll expect to see a little bit more action when some of the more skills come online.
Well, I'm one happy to see the Bebop in play. Always really fun in the early game. Can really help to dominate a lane. But with the pocket, it's going to be hard to lock down a pocket. I guess hard to lock down a Sinclair as well sometimes. So more pauses, though. I mean, to be honest, you know, this is actually normal.
It actually has been a surprisingly pauseless day so far in EU.
I would have been worried if we hadn't gotten a pause, right? It would have been a foul omen.
Listic's definitely having some issues. A quick little disconnect coming through there. It looks like he's back into the game, just trying to make sure he is stable. I think I want to say, and I can't say this with certainty, the last time we did see a Shiv Kelvin, they just got slaughtered in lane. Funny enough, as we always talk about them being like one of the S tier comps to have to play against, or to play, I guess I should say. Yeah, I think it was Listic again.
It's like the Neo like move there from the Bebop. In the Matrix.
Stop DDoSing Listic. You know what we can talk about though, Dan, really quickly. For all the viewers who are watching, we like to have some like special treats for you when it comes to DFN, and we do have a couple of them today. So we've already done our recap, which we normally do when it comes to DFN, but we also do have, really quickly, some podcasting that Jake and ZP have done over the course of the week, and we have a couple of things to show you actually involving a reju breakdown from last week, which was an insane fight we had happen, but also a tier list, a little bit of a teaser from that. So make sure you guys stick around in the breaks between games throughout the day as we have those treats coming your way.
Nice. You guys should do giveaways on those podcasts.
There's actually one more treat I forgot, Dan, and Jake, and ZP. There's a special video we did in the break between regions, before the break between regions, that you guys are going to want to definitely tune into. But you're also going to continue to tune into this match because finally it looks like the pauses have gone away. Hoping not cast a curse in this one and Listic gets DC'd right now. But we're finally back into the game, Dan. And it feels like we're going to have no more pauses finally. Knock on wood.
Why would you even say that, though? I can't believe you've done it.
Just to test fate.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Okay, well, getting our heads back into the game. We've got this mid lane. It's the Bebop up against the pocket and the Sinclair. Pocket Sinclair is definitely a bit nasty. But I have faith in the Bebop and the Mirage. I feel like that's definitely a little bit stronger in terms of damage output and also the threat. I think just the lines that you can shut down with the hook, to control the space there. I think that's really, really powerful.
Bro, look at the box running though out of Demov and Michaelis. They went extremely far away to try to get as many boxes and any sort of advantage they possibly can. Maybe an earlier, level up, maybe an earlier ultimate that they can catch Abrahams off guard with. Some really good shove with them with their composition compared to the other side. We have to depend on hitting a bomb onto multiple creeps.
Yeah, I do wonder how much time the teams spend maybe in custom servers trying to optimize box routes and just sort of try to calculate the souls per minute and just sort of understand the trade-offs,
Ouch. would imagine a ton, honestly. And we do see the initial kill of the game go over to Listic. So one of the weaker lanes that we were kind of discussing with Jake before, with Listic and Zergy, with the Lash and the Infernus respectively, they actually get an initial kill here onto Jamside, one of the players that needs to have a good game here of Abrahams.
Well. Early on, at least, you know, we're not getting too much in the way of lanes getting shoved all the way up until up to the towers. It's a lick of damage on each of the VP towers, but we saw... Oh, hello! Okay, that's what we're talking about. That hook into the uppercut. Obviously, the briefcase comes out, and that's going to enable... Oh, we almost had the ult there. We almost got the beam.
Yeah, the hyper beam being faked out. Something we see often with like Bebop and Great Talents as well with the Owl. And that healing right being popped directly onto Tass and immediately gets taken away by D-Mob by connecting an auto attack onto him. Auto attack? A bullet onto him, I guess I should say. This isn't like League of Legends.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare I?
It's not even a Valve game.
I played like 2 games of Dota. That's it. I'm scared to get thrown into Dota 2 and lose myself in my world.
Oh yeah,
my life.
I feel like
next, weeks.
I feel like it's hard to get into because the learning curve is so huge. But maybe I'm wrong. Hello. Okay, another hook coming on through. That's actually not going to obviously be the full combo though, but still the harass is there, and they're disengaged on the left side. Abraham's getting a bit closer to that VP tower here, and so just generally, oh, hang on again. We're getting more pressure coming up. So it's definitely looking like right now VP are certainly going to be experiencing a lot of damage on that left lane Guardian. So these are small wins for Abrahams.
Well, so VP in this lane have to be very careful because you're going to look for that frozen shelter to lock in one opponent plus together and sync to get a kill. So like VP have to be very cautious about how they approach this. That's why they're sitting so far back, because if they see Saint go in, they know the frozen shelter's coming, and that's when we could see Shark group in with Obikim to prevent a kill from coming through with his own last stand. But speaking of kills, Listic's gonna go down here from a downtown 3-point Kobe out of Hoot with the Essence Bomb.
That's quite the lob. There's a stone form there. Getting out of dodge again. There's a lot of pressure on this lane, but Ivy definitely with the Kudzu bombs is decent at trying to control some of this space, but maybe not enough here. We are getting a lot of damage. In fact, this Guardian's going to go down here on this left lane. It's so close. And then finally, it has been dealt with. 6.5 minutes in. The first Guardian falls in favor of Abrahams. What do they decide to do with it?
No, most likely you're going to see Saint, I would imagine, fall off. The thing is, he also can't just leave together to his own right now against his composition, against like a 1v2. He's not really fed enough to be able to do so. Spectral Assistant comes in big here. Again, they dodge away from the knockup, but the bomb's still going to connect onto D-Mob. And we're seeing Virtus.pro actually get aggressive on the right-hand side of the map. And honestly, VP kind of need to get a turret here to match up so they can afford to let players fall off. I mean, we're seeing Obikim do that now. He's kind of ditched over in the left lane, leaving Shark alone to try to farm up on the Warden, but he has to be careful, and he has to hover around his teammate, because you can still see Saint and Together don't want to let this go. They want to continue this pressure.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely what they should be doing here, and so far so good. And again, you've got to be really cautious not to get hooked as well. That ever-present threat of the hook is dangerous. Taking a more kind of back line there on the sides to try to bait somebody in. And the stolen hyper beam, that's naughty.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a smart choice, because it was going to fall off. He wasn't going to have an ultimate to use. So I wanted to just throw it out, see if he can catch any extra damage. But we've seen both teams now group up 3 players in the mid lane here. Michaelis, again, once getting hooked in. Bomb's going to connect actually onto him and Obikim. They kind of indirectly kills his team. And now Michaelis is going to be under pressure. Rosa Shelter comes through, but he's just going to zip away towards his cloak. And he'll survive to fight another day, but this Guardian probably won't.
Yeah, great sequence here for Abrahams on this mid lane. Lash is coming on in Listic to try to see what he can find. High up position is going to be catching. Well, okay, he's going to be the one that gets caught there. The hook is going to send him back. He's going to have to leave, taking too much damage. It was a nice idea, good positioning to kind of choose the fight. But we have 4 players here from Abrahams that are ready to team fight if that's what it comes down to. So Abrahams still, holding on to this lead of souls, but also holding on to the lead of objectives.
I do like this response out of VP, because they've left now Zergy alone to farm. They're leaving Shark alone to farm. You can see, both of them at 7.3k souls. They're trying to force a 4v4 here, or at least defend against a 4v4 that could happen and come their way in that mid lane. As we can see, at least Hoot has backed away towards the right-hand side of the map. Saint going to start rotating now to look to maybe take away some jungle, maybe take away the boxes more importantly, but also look for a push here on the last Guardian of the game for them.
Yeah, Abraham's really looking to play this right side position. Ballistic, that Death Slam could make a difference. We'll see if there's any love to be had here. Guardian is going to fall as Abrahams keep the fight going, but they are starting to retreat. Again, they have superior numbers here, so VP unable to really continue to engage as Abraham's team does retreat. Going back into the mid position. Couple players here from Abrahams. But at the same time, they've got to defend the left lane. That is under assault here. VP with 3 players on that left lane, applying the pressure onto the Guardian. And again, the defense comes in. The killing blow there onto Sharik is perfect, and it might be more damage to be had here as the ID Overkim is sent running.
Yeah, a quick little assassinate comes through. Actually, what is together leveling? So he's got just the base point on his serrated blades. I believe his dash, yeah, going to be up to level 2. And I would imagine he's going to max his ultimate first, just to have that like team fight potential if needed. But if we see him go for the dash max, then he's probably not going to look for any of these fights for quite a long time. But we hit the 10-minute mark there and has spawned in. Next set of buffs as well. Abraham's in position to actually pick up this first turn here if they want it.
Yeah, this is not a good look here, actually, because VP, being behind, they can't really concede this as well, unless they're able to trade onto a Guardian or something like that. But they are trying to do that here. Good damage coming in. Obviously, the TP outs for the Sinclair, keep things safe into that high ground. But the gun is, in the meantime, being run across the map. And I don't know that there's anyone to really intercept this from Virtus.pro's side. So it looks like Saint's going to be able to get this one fairly clean.
And the fight continuing to happen. On the left-hand side, Shark gets caught out of position. Obikim rejoins the fight too late. And the Frozen Shelter being used to deposit the urn, which is, as we can see on the minimap, completely free for Abrahams. Sporting now a 8,000 soul lead here. To be fair, urn plus the 2 Guardian advantage they have, that's where a good amount of those souls are actually going to be allocated. But together, up to 11,000 souls is starting to become a big problem here. Fortitude on top of this too, so he never really has to back away, and he has indeed maxed his ultimate. So you're going to be looking for some fights, some team fighting to break out.
Yeah, 3 players on the VP side on the left lane, looking to try to chase down together on the Shiv. Assistance coming though to help together out. Jam side on Wraith, and you've got Hoot on the Geist in there. They're going to lose the Guardian, but are there any kills to convert off of this? No. VP, 4 players strong, are going to retreat and be completely safe to do so. And in the meantime, there is 2 players here. Oh, the hook miss in mid. So another chance there for Abrahams to maybe get a kill gone. And that's a slight recovery from VP as they fall back into some farm.
I mean, speaking of farm, Zergi's on 12k. He's completely leading his team right now and almost leading the game. Constantly chunking away at this farm as much as he possibly can, taking boxes when there's downtime. You're not going to see him for a while, I would imagine. He's just going to continue to farm like a beast and then start to join these fights when his team needs him. But honestly, like Abraham's, this is where like the macro play is extremely important. Take away the jungle, which we're seeing on the right-hand side of the minimap. Need to deny away as many of these souls as possible, but also choose like the right times to fight, which I would imagine will be coming around the next runes plus urn. Wouldn't be surprised when you have a Kelvin on your team to try to lock in every urn you possibly can, since it's relatively easy with that Frozen Shelter. But that's also a big ultimate to commit, Dan, to secure just the urn turn in.
Yeah, I totally agree. I respect it though. I was totally alone. In the meantime, Taz has been getting those Sinner sacrifices there. Sneaky boy is stealing all the money from the enemy jungle. However, it has been now found by Sharik, he's the police, and he's told him to bugger off, and bugger off he has.
McKenna's at 11k. Looks like he's trying to eat up a lot of this farm in the jungle. Still have about 2 minutes until we see most likely a big engage. I guess after this is actually both teams have grouped up in towards this middle side. Virtus.pro looking for a catch. The Affliction has gone in. The Death Slam will wait to see be used, and Saint used the Frozen Shelter. And I mean, Listic, he's still around here. He still has his Death Slam ready to go. This could be a huge fight for Virtus.pro. The Hyper Beam comes in to force them back. The last stand is not going to allow Shark to last too much longer. But either way, it's still Virtus.pro with the kill advantage.
Yeah, Deadlock coming on in. That's going to take down Hoots. So, but in the meantime, VP, they're going to be still keeping most of their members up. Quite weak, though. Listic is critical, as is Michaelis, as is Zergy. But the important thing is they survive, they disengage, and they go about their merry way, farming the rest of the map, whilst Abrahams try to recover. And speaking of recover, that fight and some of the moments to precede it, the VP have now brought them back on the souls to a pretty marginal difference. And we got a slow motion replay of the Death Slam. Oh no! Oh wait, what?
So the hook came out right when the Death Slam came out. So the Death Slam technically went off, which is why you see Tass appear next to Listic. But the hook landed because it's a projectile, stopping the actual full throwdown.
Thanks for breaking that down, Jason. Jason is the hook scientist. Oh, and there's another one. Sharik just getting poked. It's actually quite a lot of damage just with the hook and the uppercut and the bomb right now.
The weighted shots too. I like the pickup because there's a lot of spirit damage on Virtus.pro's side, and that's going to help mitigate. I think it's like 12% spirit resist you get from that. It slows your bullets down, but because you're a hit scan on Bebop, it doesn't really affect you. It just gives you a lot of extra damage with your bullets or beam.
An awkward fight here for Abrahams as they are going to now finally bring some more members to try to defend this. There goes the Frozen Shelter getting dropped, and Virtus.pro losing health very rapidly here. Both teams still able to keep every member up at this point, though. And the urn has been stolen by Virtus.pro whilst this fight happens. And 2 kills will go the way of Abrahams, finishing off some of those critical players. However, the urn is gone. They're doing a runner with the urn. But in the meantime, Abrahams are pretty happy because they control the left lane fully. They get the Walker as well. So despite losing some... In fact, Abrahams actually come out mega ahead there. And in fact, they're even going for the mid boss, Jason.
Yeah, very smart play. I mean, the fact that they win on that fight and Gemstine's able to get a Walker and now turn it into a mid boss, which realistically Virtus.pro can't contest. Maybe Michaelis wants to go in, but he has no HP to really do so. A very smart play, and this is going to massively extend the lead out of Abrahams, though they're not going to be able to contest the urn off of this. I don't think they're going to care too much. A huge play for Abrahams and a really good way to like solidify this lead that they have, because now they can continue the pressure. They can look for more of these fights, especially if you have Tass hitting these hooks onto Listic, preventing these death slams from landing.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge edge. It just gives you so many options when you have just a map getting naturally pushed. It's not free map control because you had to be able to fight for the actual mid boss and the rejuve in the first place. But that's the reward. Once you have it, you're getting all of this map pressure, all these options to steal. I mean, okay, Taz has been a bit of a thief. I mean, I don't know how many sinner sacrifices Taz has stolen, but it's been a few.
Well, as long as he doesn't get a -3 here. All right, good man. Maybe it's a good time to bring in Jake, though, Dan, and talk about how this game's developed so far, because we are 16.5 minutes in, and it's still relatively close, but Abrahams are sporting about a 10K soul lead.
Yeah, I think that Kelvin was able to make a huge difference in that last fight, dealing with the pocket initiation and just tanking through. And Saf just completely turned the aggression around on Mirage. And that was a fight in which Wraith was also, I believe, just ratting the other side of the map and getting a Walker down. So we haven't even, for me, seen the full power of the comp. And Wraith is on a pretty ridiculous heater in terms of the farm level. It's going to be so hard for Listic, not only with the Bebop hooks able to break his ulti, but also the Wraith ulti. It's going to be difficult for him to get the sort of fight he wants. And I think the true potential for Abrahams is just brewing now, as they're looking to potentially group up and take a proper Walker fight with both Mirage and Wraith here together. VP, if they can catch them both in like a big Lash ulti or a big Infernus ulti and burst down these damagers, then they're in a great spot. But still, it's going to be really hard to just stand and even contest that kind of a fight against the damage that these carriers are going to be putting out.
Well, everything definitely spells a positive trend here for Abrahams, and they are in a deep position here on the left side of the map. We've got some listening there. Okay, yep, that was Listic's footsteps up above, and the damage output is pretty insane. Jake was saying that we have Jamside on a heater on this Wraith and in the Frozen Shelter as well to add insult to injury. You're in prison, and more damage is being dished out right now. Virtus.pro forced to try to respond to this with the team fight to try to control the situation, prevent anyone else from dying. And even though Abrahams were only 3 in that against 4, they still are able to just fall away, keep that pressure on, moving it to mid now, Jason.
There's a huge frozen shelter too to lock in Listic. There's no chance of a reset for him, especially considering they committed the telekinesis. Michaelis gets caught out here. Tass able to, it looks like just 1v1 him off of this. And now Virtus.pro on the back foot with only 4 players left alive, being forced to defend out on 2 walkers at the same time. Abraham's in a very solid position, especially with the hook coming through on Avobikim to really set themselves up for success here, potentially take this first map of the series and defend that title. Who takes down Obikim? Right hand lane walker has gone down, and the death slam. So that's just a flog, I think, coming through. Not amounting to anything yet.
It's looking really nice for Abrahams. It hasn't really stopped. With that said, though, if we just look purely at the souls differential, it's not unrecoverable for VP at this point. Again, they are very good at losing well, as we say. I do have a request, Jason, that if we ever get into Fortnite territory with this game, that Valve like make a Bender skin for Bebop. Bender from Futurama.
Oh man, that's such a good
show.
Go
pretty hard.
I would, you know what? I'd be all for that. You should get the licensing out of them. I'm trying to think. There's no Cyclops characters yet, so we couldn't have like a Leela.
True, but it does feel like I feel like there could be a world in the lore of this game where that could work.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. And I'm pretty sure they would get my D-Bucks since there's there's no V-Bucks in Deadlock here. But honestly, like Abrahams are playing super well. I know it's not like impossible to come back from this, but the tough part is Virtus.pro trying to push in towards the jungle to get any of this farm is very risky to do. That they almost have to group up for it, especially if we see like a Veil Walker come out of task at some point. It can make it even more difficult as they're controlling the buffs. They get the right hand buff, they get the left hand buff, the gun over to, I want to say Saf, but most likely should be fed over to Jam's side here at 27,000 souls. Like he is so far ahead. And something that Jake mentioned, it's already hard enough to get through the front line, but with Jam's side this far ahead, it's gonna be so difficult to deal with this. Shark just taking a brunt of damage here, does get the earn and get away. So at least a slight win for Virtus.pro, but they have to keep everyone left alive to make this possible. Oh, never mind. There's the earn.
Cinematic killing blow into the frozen shelter. Listic again getting trapped. The death slam, the desperation death slam within the frozen shelter. Somehow Listic is alive, but of course it's inevitable goes down. And we get Demov stealing a frozen shelter of his own, popping that one briefly, but Urn still is in the hands of Abrahams as they completely crush this fight. VP get wiped out, and now the Urn is going to make its way to the deposit, the drop-off point.
That, that was a decent frozen shelter as a counter out of D-Mob, but Listic gets locked out and then gets picked off from that one. Also, we have to mention, there's been 2 counter spells I've now noticed for Abrahams. One on Together, and I believe the other was on to Hoot. Yeah, he currently has it up too. So they don't even necessarily need tasks to hit hooks on these death slams because they can just counter spell because it's super easy to pull off against a orchestrated death slam.
Yeah, absolutely. The counter spell is really, really good.
Stolen frozen shelter again. That's not good. He's gonna actually be thrown back into the party here by Tass, who's hitting. It almost feels like every single hook possible. And with that kill coming through, they're most certainly gonna take the shrines. They're most certainly gonna take the stage 1 patron. Listic, no death slam, only Obikim with an ultimate up, but that's not the ultimate you want to have to try to defend your base.
Yeah, it's been great work here from those hooks. I totally agree. Base is under heavy assault at the moment. 2 VP players down, and the rest have to be cautious not to die at this point, lest they stagger the respawns, and that just makes things worse. Able to chase them out of the base though. So it's like, it feels like a Han Solo moment where he just like runs at the stormtroopers here, but now he's gonna get hooked uppercut. There's the bomb, and it's not looking good for Shariq. Goes down. It's a noble attempt. Frozen shelter again. How many frozen shelters can there possibly be in the last 30 seconds?
I respect the hustle though. So like Michaelis gets a massive affliction off, which allows them to get the kill into Jam's side and Together, and then they push out of their base knowing mid boss is spawning soon, because if you get kills, you're looking at like a 40+ second timer on these respawns, meaning you kill off like 2, maybe 3 more players of Abrahams, you get a huge advantage against them. You take a mid boss, and then you're immediately right back in the game. It didn't work out for Virtus.pro, but I 100% respect that decision to go for that push and go for those kills, considering the window they had to get back in the game here.
Well, is there anything that you want to say, Jake? Because this looks bad.
Yeah, there's not much time left in which to say it. It's going to be probably a mid-boss force here. VP going to be just barely spawning in time to go for this, because it's a bit risky for Abrahams to do this rather than just fighting on the map. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a fake here potentially.
Oh, let's 60 seed.
Oh. But we got Infernus is very deep on the mini map. Zergy spot right now. If he's been found out by Wraith, I think this could be the game. He looks very close. Let's see the Wraith POV. That's where Jam Side's at.
I think you're right though, Jake. Like I think VP have to contest this. If they lose this fight, I think they're gonna lose the game. Like they can't let this reju go for free. This is like their last chance Saloon to make. I mean, they have them grouped here. If they go for mid boss, that's their best opportunity to force a fight.
And Ricochet on Saf. That's so scary. This fight is going to be really difficult. Mirage is going to do the most here.
Yeah, that's kind of how you're like setting it up, Jake, as well. Just the farm is just too strong on those two heroes in particular. I love seeing all these hooks constantly. It's great. I see the core being thrown into the distance. Very nice indeed. All right, well, there's a rejuve now falling from the ceiling. It's mad dash. It is descending. There we go. Now we okay, frozen shelter. That's going to slow things down a little bit. Kutsu bomb. Trying to do as much damage, create as much distraction as possible, but it is Abrahams to secure that rejuve as expected, and it is a wipeout here once again. Virtus.pro getting just destroyed, decimated, and Abraham's moving as a pack so well.
I think VP got a little bit caught off guard considering they saw multiple players around the map out of Abraham's, but they were still going for the finish. And they weren't in position to like capitalize off of that with the rejuve falling, but also Saint, he gets the rejuve and frozen shelters right after, locking and Obikim for a very clean and easy kill. And honestly, I don't see Virtus.pro coming back into this one. Task, how many hooks have you hit this game? Because it has been nutty. Shark has no chance at last stand. And now VP on the back foot here. They will have the respawns out of Obikim, Michaelis, and Listed, but Shark's still going to be down for 30 seconds of time. You have to imagine Abraham's going to go up 1-0 here in the series now.
Yeah, it's looking phenomenal. Oh, there's another one. Another hook is connected. I mean, the cooldown is so low. In comes Infernus, like an intercontinental ballistic missile with the concussive combustion. Man, these words are very long and very hard to say together. There it is. The Patron is going to be finished off, and that is victory for Abrahams in the first map. And it was, I feel, fairly decisive all the way through. A convincing performance.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. It just, what Virtus.pro were throwing up here was not working out too well for them. Even though they got the initial kill on the Jam side, the losing of the guard in the left lane, I think, started to spell the downfall for Virtus.pro. Abraham's able to free themselves up, force like these skirmishes towards the mid lane while they were still farming up in multiple lanes across the map. Made it very difficult for VP to have a strong resurgence, a strong like bounce back into the game. I mean, good timings on the rejuve too, and the initial kills that they got. Even though they did lose control of the urn, they decided to go for rejuve and go for that trade out. But after that rejuve, they got, what was it, 2 walkers. And before even that happened, Jamside gets a free walker in the left lane while Abrahams are fighting on the right-hand side of the map and still winning out even with a man disadvantage.
Well, we need a man advantage, so we're going to bring Jake back in. Boom.
Your Manalist here reporting for duty. And yeah, I just feel like this Mirage Wraith hit this incredible critical mass. It felt like they weren't even forced, to my insight, to really fight at full strength this game. I felt like they were able to win a couple of those like fights with just 4 or 5 players for Abrahams together, and then they're just hedging their bets by always being split pushing. And that's sort of the advantage of the Wraith, the Wraith and Mirage comp, is that, well, I do think late game you're just like core damage threat is amazing, and like the end game team fights. Also in the mid game, you don't have to go for that play. You can just be constantly putting pressure on, you know, hedging your bets, taking wires. And when they win a fight, while at the same time somebody's getting a walker on the other side of the map, that just explodes the lead. Like it becomes really hard to come back because the lanes are so against you, and now the farm is starting to get into a really dangerous spot. So what are you going to do? 5-man gank the Wraith, or are you going to try to back off and get something else? And I also loved Hoot's build this game. He went for like a very team-oriented build here because of the Wraith Mirage carry setup, and Bebop as well, having some pretty serious gun damage. I believe Hoot went Heroic Aura, so just to be able to buff up all of his allies, like just max out the team fight DPS threat. And it's just a tough game for Listic, man. So many cancels. Like the Bebop is really good against canceling the Lash ult, and then the Wraith ult to get on top of that. And then on top of that, you're dealing with the Kelvin Dome that could, you know, it's just such a tough Lash game.
I mean, not to mention that we had multiple counter spells built up for Abraham's too. So like getting a successful Death Slam, a successful Affliction when you have to like telestrate it so, you know, clearly is not easy to do.
By the way, can you not parry the Affliction? I could have sworn Together parried the Affliction. Actually, I think it's like right here.
Should be.
Is it here?
Spell works on it.
But he's afflicted. I feel like he only
so
parries the first proc of it or something. So I feel like that was like a bug or something.
Yeah.
He did parry it.
Oh, maybe, yes, it's the first chunk of damage that it does.
Which is like nothing, right? Which is like literally nothing. It's just like one tick of damage on you. I mean, I guess it's good because you still proc the counterspell buff on yourself, but it's pretty interesting.
How impactful do we feel like the Bebop was in this game? Because that's
my God,
an interesting pick.
This is your answer.
mean, I think it was just like the fact, like it's perfect synergy with the game plan from Abraham's, right? We've seen a lot of teams do this Shiv Kelvin frontline strat, and it hasn't always worked. But I think the Bebop, the Wraith Mirage, they complemented it really perfectly because this frontline normally the problem is they get kited around. But are you really going to sit there and play a poking fight against Wraith Mirage Bebop? I mean, you almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I just think the Abraham strat was so balanced and so well drafted. Such a tough game to be even attempting to play into.
Yeah, for you, Jason, was there anything that could, like, if we ignore the late game, because it feels like if you get to the late game, Abrahams were always going to kind of steal it away with the Wraith factor and the Saf factor on the Mirage. Was there a way that BP could have done something with this comp?
I mean, I think there's always the potential. I think just Abraham's built really well around it. Again, like you have counterspell on Hoot and Together, so kind of your front line to prevent like any sort of engagement out of Listic. I think looking at the breakdown of Souls by Source as well, you see such a big difference on neutral camps between both these two teams. And I think that comes into Abraham's initial control, taking the first tower on the left-hand side, able to push in towards the enemy, you know, jungle camps. They prevent a lot of like farm for Virtus.pro by doing so. I mean, the highest they have is, I mean, I'm not gonna do the full math for it, but considering Zergy, he's at 12% on neutrals, so like 10% of 29,000 is like almost 3K. So you got like almost 3K of his souls from just the neutrals alone, but like no one else really comes close to that. And you need to see that farm being picked up. I mean, normally we look at Michaelis, and this is something we talked a lot about when seeing Virtus.pro pick pockets so highly and so often, is that Michaelis would have a ton of neutral souls, like from all of these camps, but he was really like hamstrung in this game because of the initial loss of control.
That makes a lot of sense. Any other standout things in the stats here for you, Jake?
Yeah, I just love the team builds from Abraham's. Like everyone really understood their role in this game. Like I love that Saint built Unstoppable. This game is like not an item you always see on Kelvin, but he realizes at some point in this game that like the only way the enemy team can win is if they kill him first, and he can't save people. So he just goes Unstoppable, and there's just no way you're going to kill him first with Unstoppable. It's not happening. And then from there, it's like, okay, they're going on somebody else. Kelvin can always save them, and he puts the enemy in this terrible trap. The counter spells were great. You know, both Together and Hoot really built like a heavier tanking style build. They could, I mean, Shiv went pretty greedy on the damage, but in fairness, he was in such a strong lead. And so everyone just like played to their role perfectly. I also love the Taz build. I think Bebop has been a bit of an identity crisis, but I just like the idea of just being like an extra raw gun carry. Pretty great at just like helping burst through some of these hook targets, especially if Saf or Jamside are busy or being initiated on themselves.
Awesome. Well, we still have potentially one more map list left in this best of three. So I guess it's going to be interesting to see where the discussion takes us when we get into the next draft. But before we head out to the break, do you guys have any parting thoughts?
Jason, your Pred's looking mighty dangerous here. Mighty dangerous. You still got this?
2-0 for Abrahams that I have.
Oh, you're 2-0 for Abrahams. My bad.
I don't remember hearing anything differently. What I'm excited about, Dan, actually is coming up in this break, because if I'm not mistaken, we have Jake and ZP breaking down a sick Reju fight we had last week.
Oh, awesome. Let's roll it. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to DFN number 29, or Vente Novo. Wait, is that right? No, I mixed up French and Italian there. It'd be Venti Novo, right? Did I do it right, Jason?
I don't speak Italian.
You don't speak Italian? What? Okay, mate, you've got to learn at least some numbers.
Due is 2. There you
okay, all right, fair enough. Got something missing before that, but okay. All right, let's go. This is the second map of this series. It's best of 3, and Abrahams, they won decisively in the first map. We'll see if VP can start to mount a defense here in this best of 3, force it to a third. Let's bring Jake back in, and let's get this draft going as well. Because we just had that first. Wait,
I've thrown Jake into the dumpster. He's gone for now. He's taking a forcible break. Is what's happening right now, Dan.
A forcible break.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I guess if you can bench 600, so
that's
I'm
right.
not going to argue with you. I don't want to be forcibly dehosted. So, yeah, let's maybe you should run the show, ZP. I feel very emasculated in your presence.
Well, wait, how can you feel emasculated? We've just fixed your microphone that was set on absolutely the reverse of masculation for God knows how long. Probably the better part of a decade, you know?
That is true. I've had this mic for 9 years and the settings were completely wrecked. So, well, we're into the bans, and gents, what do we learn here? VP, they're starting off with the opening ban. Is there something that they should do to change the trajectory of the draft so they can be in a more favored position?
I mean, well, first of all, ZP, we were talking about this in the break before the series started. VP lost. They get choice of first pick or not.
Yes.
And they decide to stay with first pick instead of having second pick, which we've been talking about a lot lately as seeming to be the priority out of a lot of teams.
That is weird. Unless it's a case where things got flipped on us, it is a little bit weird. Not only are they first pick, but they're going out of their way to ban Calico first rather than leaving it open so they could pick it. It's a little bit off. Like, I think in terms of where the power is in this meta, it feels like a little bit of a misplay for VP. Relative to what they're going to prioritize, where I assume going in here.
Actually, I have to apologize. Sorry. Virtus.pro had second pick last time because we saw Geist being picked first out of Abraham's. But they chose to go for first pick. So what, are they going to go probably Pocket again? But I don't know if Pocket would have been contested.
They may go Geist.
Yeah.
I actually think giving up Geist is pretty bad, even if it means giving up Pocket, especially if the world here is like, you're not even going to try and angle for a Calico. Yeah, okay, they're going Geist. And this purely comes from the fact that I think they value Geist, like not having Geist, as worse than having Calico versus Geist +1. It is kind of how this broke down. Because that's the only way you can justify banning Calico when you are the first pick team.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense just for the sake of being able to again change that trajectory of the draft and force Abrahams to have to adapt. I think there is a lot of value in that, and there it is. There's the pocket that's been given away. What would be a good second pick here for Abrahams?
Well, in this case,
I'm thinking.
Oh, I thought that was like the surprised eyes, but that was the thinking eyes. Jason,
I don't know. Because I'm thinking like I don't know if they want to invest in Hayes early because Hayes was banned in the second round of bans last time. So I don't know if they want to like lock it in as like a first priority pick, but picking Shiv here does seem a little bit awkward because now Virtus probably the opportunity to pick up a Kelvin to deny the Shiv Kelvin.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because VP, when you look at how they handled the draft in the Challenger match, they didn't really seem too worried about picking up Shiv and Kelvin early. But I think the way Abrahams plays, the fact that Together is so comfortable on the Shiv does make denying it more of a priority. And the problem here, of course, is that they've already given up. But in response, they are going to grab the Kelvin way earlier than they did previously. And this is purely out of respect to just how Abrahams enjoys running this. The problem here, though, is that I'm wondering if they're going to take either Wraith or Mirage way earlier this time, because it was something Jake brought up in the last draft I think is really important to note here. I think for how Abrahams is playing right now, especially how they're like coordinating team fights in the late end, and just the general power of both heroes, giving up both Wraith and Mirage, I think is quite bad. And in this case, they've gone with the early Infernus again, but you know, okay, Infernus is good for Shiv, but I don't know. I think Abrahams may come out here and grab one of the two of either Wraith or Mirage, and then look to angle to grab that after mid-stage bans if neither is banned away. Because, or they grab Bebop. I think maybe they grab Bebop here because, oh, okay, that's a little bit surprising. Because I think if you're VP on mid-stage bans, Bebop may be what you target here just because of how much they were able to get off that with TAS in the last game.
Especially if they don't want to pick it.
Yeah.
I mean, is Bebop going to be worth more as a ban for a ban over like a Haze? Because obviously you're forcing TAS to play one of those. If you ban Bebop, there's a good chance you could pick Haze. If you ban Haze, there's a good chance you could pick Bebop on top of that as well. So it's really a difficult decision to make for them.
I think it depends on what they feel more comfortable playing and what kind of fits more easily into that comp. Because if they don't because Abrams looks mega comfortable playing the Bebop in their overall composition in the game plan there. And I don't know, in a VP, I don't doubt that they can play Bebop, but I could see that being one of those picks that feels less workable than a Haze, for example. But okay, so they go for the Haze ban though, so you were correct. Because I think that's where you were leaning based on what you just said. So interesting. So we already have a very, very different trajectory for the second draft, and I love that.
I think your Abrahams here. I don't think VP has shown that they want to run Bebop right now, so I think you have higher priority picks. I don't think you have to pick the Wraith at the moment. I think what you have to probably grab here is the Mirage, because you figure if VP were going to run Wraith, it would be Zergy on it. Okay, good. This is kind of how they need to draft this. The number one thing that VP could have picked from what they want to pick of their remaining picks was the Mirage. So you secure the Mirage now and probably grab Bebop next. I don't actually know if they... we'll see if they add the Wraith on top of it, but they needed to get the Mirage where they got it.
I'm looking at VP. I'm wondering, are we going to see a Lash come out of them, actually? Like, we've seen Lash obviously go up in priority. Would be bad to get 7 out of his Storm Cloud. Good initial catch onto Shiv as well. He doesn't have the protection anymore of a Kelvin.
But unless they pick a Bebop, they might be inviting the Bebop pick on the other end. That is all.
Bebop's gonna come in from Abrahams. One or another. I don't think VP. I feel like they're not likely to take it unless it's more of a denied pick. Just again, they didn't show any inclination for it before, and no. Instead, they're gonna probably be putting DMOV onto the holidays. So yeah, for Abrahams here, one of these two picks is gonna be Bebop, and then it's kind of a matter of, do they go really DPS heavy and try and go with the Wraith, or do they shore up their front line a little bit more? Because their front line is a little bit lacking when you take a look at this here. I mean, essentially, it is just Shiv. I feel like you want something else to round this out that's a bit on the tanky side. And Bebop comes in. Now it's just a matter of, do you pick up something that's more frontliner-esque here as your last pick? But sometimes teams have gone with lighter front lines, so we'll see.
Are we going to see?
I don't think Wraith makes sense, but it's still available.
Are we going to see like a Michaelis Geist? So I'm thinking, what's Shark going to play right now? Because like DMOV on Holiday, Listic on Lash, and it'll probably be, well, I guess, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I was expecting maybe Michaelis to go Geist. I think flexibility is obviously one of the big advantages to being in VP, is everyone has that flexibility. But to counter out on this, I mean, there is no front line for Abrahams. It's just Shiv by himself, and I would imagine Shiv doesn't even want to play front line since he wants to kind of sweep things through as the finisher off the back of an Affliction. They're very squishy, man. They're very susceptible to pickoffs here, and this is going to be a little bit of a tough game. I don't know. I mean, obviously Abrahams has a ton of damage. It's really hard to say like who's going to win or lose necessarily, but if you look at like the pick potential and just the front line of Geist, of Lash, having Kelvin in there as well, they have to have, I think, a strong start.
Look, I'm looking at this, and I do feel like I just saw VP get exposed a little bit, in the sense that I don't think that the back end of this Abrahams draft was all that surprising. Like, as we were looking at this here, we were kind of able to plot what was likely Abrahams was going to come out with. And that means VP, I think, also had a good idea that they were going to go for this, and they just decided, no, we don't really want to take away any of the pieces that you're going to go with comp-wise, because, it's always one of two things. Either A, you just think you can win with your own game, or B, hero pool-wise, they don't feel comfortable with some of the change-ups there. Like, for example, with VP, when they show Infernus when they do there, I don't think they feel comfortable grabbing a Wraith at all from that point forward in the draft. And I think that creates some problems in the level of power you end up giving up, because ideally for Abrahams, I think the Bebop was the most important pick that they needed to do in the latter part of the draft. But they just kind of figured that VP had no intentions of picking Bebop, and thus they were able to get higher value with the Mirage and still maintain the Bebop. That was a crucial piece here. So I kind of look at this, and it worries me that VP wasn't able to be a little bit more adaptive in the draft.
Yeah, I was thinking they would have banned the Bebop just for that very reason too. But we'll see though, because the playstyle that will be available to them is going to be very different based on what they've drafted here. It does feel like there are some more answers. Where are you on all of this, Jason? Are you leaning any way in particular?
I don't know. It's tough because I think there's like a lot of like individual things that can determine how this game plays out. I look at like Jamside on the Wraith. I look at Hoot. I mean, last time we saw him playing Pocket, he smashed Virtus.pro with a 5 kill streak 8 minutes in. I obviously have to look at like how is Listic gonna be playing Sinclair here too. Like, can he create a lot of pressure early on in the game? I mean, 7 is going to be weak early on. Even Shiv's going to be a little bit weak early on until he gets his ultimate online, where you have a Geist and a Kelvin paired together. The thing is, like, if Tass just keeps hitting hooks like in the last game, like, it's still going to be like a very difficult mountain to climb for VP to win the game.
I think when I look at this overall, my main question mark, and I think the thing that's VP's gonna have to rely on, because in a way, this is similar to how OneWin was under pressure in the challenging match, where realistically speaking, they didn't get enough out of their holiday. I think VP is going to live and die by how much DMOV is able to do once Lasso comes online. And when you get into the phase of the game where both teams are kind of running around looking for fights and jockeying for position on the map. And if DMOV isn't able to have an outsized impact on the game, I think overall comp-wise, this could get really, really ugly for VP.
And just in terms of lane matchups, before you go, ZP, how do you feel about the lane matchups?
I mean, looking at it right now, middle is terrifying if you don't get hooked. Like, middle is basically, I look at that and that's a VP win if you're able to not get hooked by Taz. So obviously there's a variable there, but in terms of the outright poke damage that's coming in, you're actually not competitive in middle without good hooks. So when I look at that lane, it all depends on the performance of Taz, because there's kind of a timer that's going on there where if a hook is not hit by a certain point, you're dead. And you look at Taz's HP right now, it's not looking great for Abrahams in middle right now, because the poke in that lane is truly overwhelming.
All right, well, Jason, these lanes do look like a lot of fun. Already, there is already a lot of pressure in that mid lane, as we love to see, because of that hook dynamic.
I mean, you're seeing Tass back to base because he got so low in HP, not 1.1k souls, and Virtus.pro have a clear lead up against him by, you know, a good 600. And VP, I mean, they're keeping the pressure on the left lane, the mid lane, the right lane's the one that's kind of like sitting back a little bit more here. But when you have a Geist and a Kelvin like paired together, just the Frost Grenade and the Essence Bomb, just you're going to clear a wave out so damn fast that realistically for Abrahams, you can't stop that and you can't counter push. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like early monster rounds coming through to help alleviate that pressure, which we already Saint currently having one. But fun enough for seeing, you know, Saint rocking the 7 here. I know Jake's looking for that support 7, which we almost had with Xenon, but the Arctic beam damage just really pushing him back. And he even might have to go back to base now.
Yeah, okay, well, we're getting a dive here from Calvin, looking for the finish on Saints. He finds the 7. Well, it's going to be Saint now looking to just easily escape. Not even that low. That was a pretty chill dive there. And that's a great start here for Abrahams. That said, they are kind of low on a multitude of heroes at this point. Zergy also super weak on the right side lane. Has to play that very cautiously. Might end up having to heal.
Early QSR picked up here for Shard too on the Lash. I wouldn't be surprised to actually say this is his first time playing Lash in DFN. A lot of firsts today for a lot of our different players. I have to go back and check if it's for sure, but it definitely feels like it. But also maybe a lacking in hero pool, because the Listic normally would be their Lash player, and Listic is going to have to be playing the Sinclair. Very low HP for Sharks. He's going to chase down. Who's going to get the kill? And this is not the man you want to see get an early start here for Abraham, if you're Virtus.pro. Again, his pocket play was pretty damn spot on and was definitely the key hero in one of their victories up against VP last week. And when he gets comfortable and with them taking this tower within the next wave or two, you're going to free up a lot of potential for him to start pulling off some ganks.
Yeah, the tower damage is outrageous at the moment, and it's not looking like it's going to stop anytime soon. Huge push on that right side. On the left side, though, Abraham's having to be the defenders against, as you were describing previously, this highly oppressive force between the Geist Bomb and the Kelvin Grenade as well. Like, we're really shoving those lanes. And then back in mid on Taz.
Ooh.
Barrels flying around. You live by the hook, you die by the hook. The hook comes in, but 24 HP, able to escape around the corner, but actually goes down in the end anyway, thanks to Listic. Emo takes out Sap as well, and that mid tower is going down in favor of Virtus.pro. And with that, Abrahams need to find something to trade back with. I think some good damage here on this tower, but, well, Guardian's going to just force Saint to get reset back to base. That's totally fine. But hang on. Hang on. You got a very weak Shiv, and in comes the Holiday. Demov is in for this one. Actually, Demov is not very healthy, so it's just a scare tactic.
We talked about getting something back with Abraham's losing that control in mid lane. It was all in sync together, popping both their ultimates to actually pick up that kill. And Zergy Combustion not going to connect onto Jams as he gets away with the card trick. And Zergy now, he's going to be under pressure. He's going to fall as well. A big step up here for Abrahams. A slight misplay. It looked like that of Virtus.pro though on the left-hand side. Obikim, him and Michaelis were separated. Michaelis gets caught out with Obikim still having frozen shelter available. And Abrahams, credit to them to take advantage of this. They were losing that left-hand lane. I mean, technically they lost the Guardian, so they did lose the lane in the end, but able to bounce back is extremely important. And with Hoot freed up after taking the right lane tower, this is where he's going to start to excel. And they sent out 5.3 thousand souls, and he's going to look for that massive impact around the map.
Well, back into this mid battle now. Vexing bolts, so annoying. Does so much damage.
Yeah,
it really does. And that's Virtus.pro defending their mid Guardian. Their mid Guardian hasn't taken any chip damage at all at the moment. And we actually have both the Kelvin and the Geist now making their way across the map for VP into that mid lane. In fact, there's quite a few players now looking to congregate in the mid lane. We might get a team fight here. 3 players for VP. And in fact, they're going to surround Taz. He's just absolutely so incredibly dead. You couldn't be more dead.
that's true. You could not be more dead when you have a lasso connect onto you at a Demov. You can just say goodbye and just get ready back into spawn. Open up your buy book, your buy menu, and see what you want to pick up when you get the souls later on. But together, he gets another kill. And together, it's starting to get things rolling. 6.4k souls. Again, wouldn't be surprised to see him max his execute right off the bat. And with the telekinesis coming through onto Shark, he should fall. He's already low on HP, and this is a very slippery slope now for Virtus.pro. I know they can bounce back from losing early on in the game, but Abraham's with the lead, still being down to objective is not a good sign for VP.
They will not escape their fate.
Yeah, lots of skirmishing around mid now. And it's actually going to be Demov who's getting chased down, or potentially might be being chased down. Very low on HP. Surrounded by 2 players. Demov trying to get out of here. The pursuit is continuing. However, assistance in the form of Zergy on the Infernus is present. But Jamside on Wraith joins the fight as well. And eventually they're going to make it to the Walker, these VP players. Looks like they may be able to survive after all. But in the meantime, fight breaks out towards the left. Walker. As we can see, the Hex coming in to just try to allow Ballistic to survive here. Able to TP away. Has the assist as well if necessary from the Geist and the Kelvin. So a lot of these fights looking like something could happen, but both teams managed to avoid any disasters.
Yeah, it seems like VP's answer to together. Oh, okay, hold on. Another Elastic gonna hit on the Saf this time. The backup's not going to be there, and Saf will just tornado away. But the response to together is just kind of keep his lane almost in a 2v1. You can just continue to shove into him, keep him back towards the Walker, not allow him to free farm as much. And honestly, the Hyper Beam stolen away. Listic looking for the kills, immediately gonna have to back out of this one, realizing he doesn't have the damage. The support will be there to come through. So Michaelis and Shark gonna be on the wings. And Saf's gonna connect it on with the Essence Bomb. Michaelis picks up that kill. And Virtus.pro do walk away with the 2 kills for themselves.
So way better look for them at the moment compared to the previous map opening. Abraham's putting the pressure on the Walker. They only have 1 Guardian, but they're going for Walker right now. I don't know if these players are going to survive the retreat, though, because Lash is also coming in on the back. VP looking to just wipe these 2. This offensive forced by Abrahams. Abrahams are pushing the left side of the map at the same time here, so they might be okay to lose these players so long as they get value on the left side where they are currently pushing. There's the Hyper Beam beaming down the Guardian. And they're the defenders here for VP. They have to give it.
And they get the Guardian, which gives them a flex slot and keeps things tied at 2 apiece. But Virtus.pro going for their own counter push on the right-hand side. And Jamside is going to be able to get there in time to deflect this aggression away. Definitely feels like Virtus.pro are trying to take charge of this game, try to control the pace and not be forced to play so retroactively and defensively like they were in the first map of this series. Now Demov with that lasso up in 2 seconds, just looking for an opportunity for another catch. With the rune spawning in, it might be around this moment. And I think Abraham's wisely back away, giving this one up.
Yeah, just looking at the soldier real quick, Taz is actually very low on the farm compared to basically everybody else on the server, but might not be that important right now. 4 players here for Abrahams. Looking to take the fight against VP on this left side once again. Over that urn. Urn gets dropped, and in position are Abrahams to still try to fight for this if they want to do so, but the urn will get stolen away on the ice path there for Oberkim. And that's just going to force the fight to just kind of dissolve.
Yeah, and the rest of... Well, both teams just going to back away, really not wanting to commit to it. The guarding going down. It might be the free turn in for VP with the urn. And Dimov gets caught up by a hook, but does get away with the launch pad, but not for too long as Hoot comes in, swoops in for the kill. Add another tally to the books, but they've left open the urn turn in. And now it's all about Virtus.pro. Can they defend this left lane walker? Can Abrahams get the left lane walker to turn a free turn in for VP into an advantage for them? And you can see they've immediately been forced to back away.
Yeah, it might be a... Oh. Basically horizontal. Might be a moment for ZP to share his thoughts. What are your thoughts, ZP? And do you
My
have
thoughts
any?
when I look at Abrahams right now is that the income allocation is quite good for them at the moment. I mean, it was actually a little bit better before the pause, before some of the objective income came on in. But Together and Jamside are exactly where they need to be. And if you needed one person to be a little bit in the low end farm-wise, it actually would be the Bebop. So the spread from Abrahams is really nice. Meanwhile, I mean, I look at VP at the moment, and in a way, it's not like you could almost argue Demov's a little bit too rich. Like you need more on Michaelis and Zergy, but you know, team fights here, and Michaelis is in bad shape, so I'll let you take it away from here, Dan.
Yes, Michaelis has been put in an early grave. Jason. That's not ideal.
Dead. He's dead,
Michaelis, suboptimal, one would say.
You can see still Virtus.pro being so aggressive in the jungle. You have Listic and Demov still around the corner trying to take away some of these center sacrifices. And it looks like Listic's going to get put in for free. And Shark even going to be cleaning up some farm in this left lane, being left alone. I know we've talked a lot about like certain heroes when they fall behind, it's really hard to have a lot of impact. Definitely true when it comes to Lash. I mean, if his Death Slam is not going to be important, the ground strikes plus the flogs need to be doing some decent damage here. Especially with how squishy Abrahams are. Like any extra damage you get on a Lash is going to make it that much easier for you to win out on a team fight.
Well, VP are coming in to try to intercept this, but I don't know if it's the fight that they want on the left side. Instead, they're going to give that one up here, and we fizzle it out into, again, a bit of jungling for both sides. Somewhat of a lane push on the right end of the map here that will force a response from VP to defend. They already have Zergy there who can take care of those creeps. Nice high ground position here for Holiday of VP. Demov.
He's so aggressive.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been sick, but I'm sure we'll get a sick one later on.
It seems like
the Holiday versus
Overwatch.
Bebop battle.
Oh no, I don't want to see what's going to connect more. Okay, let's going to take down Saint though in the middle of a storm cloud, but yeah, Demov, it looks like he's just being an Overwatch position, just like sitting on high ground, giving the information so they can cleanly push and look for some damage. And then obviously with the jump pads, very easy to escape in enemy territory, even if you do get hooked up. And taking a look at, like, you know, again, the allocation, like Together at 13k, has maxed out his ultimate. So it's what we expected from the last game. And he is being left alone quite heavily. So I think for VP, you need to be careful about this and how you approach it to stop letting him farm for free. You need to look for some damage, look for some kills ideally. Yeah, because objectives would definitely be nice too on top of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And their jam side will become a problem, even though they are slightly behind Abrahams on the overall souls. Oh, very nice there. Expect nothing less from Zergy, a refined gentleman with his trackball. But towards the basement. Oh, no, escape for you. The prison, the icy prison is erected there, and Taz is taken out. So, unfortunate. Lots of presence in mid for VP at the moment.
I was thinking maybe they go for a mid boss after those 2 kills. I think taking away jungle is going to be a higher priority. Maybe another catch. This time on to Saint. Stun's going to come through, but you can still see Obi come off to the side to help out. And the chase will continue to be had here. There's no escape. I mean, we see Jamside trying to come through to get here in time. And all you can do is just parry and hope is Satan, and he's going to fall. Another kill picked up for Virtus.pro, and that lead is starting to extend up to 5K now. At least for Abraham's, no objectives are being lost with these deaths, but they are losing a lot of their jungle. And that's something I really, prioritized in talking about when we saw the match stats from the first game. That Virtus.pro were just so far behind when it came to jungle. Abraham's were denying so much of it away. And it seems like VP haven't been able to stabilize quite heavily from that first game.
Yeah, and I think again, it's just a reminder of Jamside really staying so competitive on the farm. Is always going to give it at this point in the game. Or he's always going to be a dangerous presence in the game if he can find the right positioning in these team fights. But the urn is once again being carried by VP. They got some of the previous urns, and so this has been an edge for them currently. And I wonder if that's an edge that, if that's going to be neutralized, it'll be changed over. If Abrahams will really do anything about this, Abrahams are currently trying to harass the right Walker, and so there are multiple things happening at once here.
Yeah, that's the response. They keep a couple players near the urn to deter Virtus.pro away and try to push a Walker down, but we can see Michaelis coming in. Stormcloud on top of the Walkers is going to do some really good damage, and there's really no response to get him out of the skies except just try to burst him down, which honestly, it's slowly starting to happen. 400, 200 HP left, and he should fall. But he gets the Walker. Damage has been done, and Virtus.pro are not able to respond with the push in for the urn. So Abraham, Saint, you sacrificed yourself well. You've done well.
Yeah, that was pretty marginal. Very, very close. And VP now looking with some reinforcements to try to force the issue in on this urn. There's the frozen shelter. Have to pick it up again, though. That's going to be collected in the safety of the shelter. And in the meantime, rest of your teammates, though, were they able to stay in a good position? Looks like they were. Rest of VP not losing any fights, disengaging, looking to defend this mid Walker now under pressure from Abrahams. It's what they got in the trade-off for losing the urn, but they have to now escape the fight for it to be a conversion that is to the positive.
I don't know, man. 2 Walkers is a really good trade, and Zerg is just being beat down, but damage will be done. Together will fall. At least for VP's sake, they do get 2 more kills together in Jam's side. They will lose out Michaelis, who overextended in towards the middle lane, maybe looking for their own Walker. And Mystics on the chase, just punching away against that rabbit. Someone call PETA. And then Tash to fall too. Is this actually a rejuve take?
Yeah, it could very well be. There's still some moves to make here for Abrahams. In fact, interestingly, despite it doesn't feel like Abrahams have caught up on the souls, but they've managed to do so. There's a 3K gap, but sliding down into the mid-boss pit. That mid-boss is going to be challenged, and Abrahams, they've got to decide if they want to respond to this. They are mounting a force outside, and now pulling away from the mid-boss is VP to meet that force of Abrahams. And in fact, both teams tentative, not wanting to take a bad team fight here and give away a mid-boss. So it's actually might just be a full disengage.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, Abraham's a respawn back in time. Affliction connected onto 2 to slowly whittle away at their HP. Looks like Michaela's just going for a quick little restart here. So, I mean, Virtus.pro a little bit hesitant to go for that mid-boss. So they went to go buy first, but, I respect it. Obviously, some big items coming through. And with this slight pause we have coming in, ZP, I have to bring you in for another time to discuss something that you're talking about how Virtus.pro need to solidify this lead that they have pretty ASAP if they want to take this to a map 3.
Yeah, I think when you look at the late game scaling between both teams, I do think Abrahams has the edge if it goes super late, notwithstanding the fact that Jamside is already pretty far ahead. I also think VP, aware of that, made a very, very smart move to just back out of mid-boss here. I think the odds that could have been a disaster fight were very high. They did not have enough time to just be a clean taken out. And if they had gone for mid-boss and had lost Rejuve and lost players in the end, that would have been it. Like, Abrahams would get far ahead, and Abrahams, of course, 1 map up. That would be the series. So I think the call to just get out there, one of the smarter calls we've seen here today. And I mean, VP, they're on a razor's edge right now. Something that's worth noting, though, is that the only reason why it's close farm-wise is the Walker difference between both teams. If VP is able to get like 1 or 2 pickoffs courtesy of Dimov, go forward and get 2 Walkers of their own, they will be significantly far ahead in the game. So the next 2 or 3 minutes here, I think of the utmost importance right now for VP and how the rest of this game pans out.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because we have certainly seen, Jason, all those urns really generally being taken up by VP.
Yeah, and they only really lost. Well, they only really lost. They lost a Walker eventually for it. The last turn that we just saw. I think the first one they did defend against it for the most part. I think maybe they lost the left-hand Guardian, if I'm not mistaken. But not really losing out too much until it became a little bit of a snowball, losing their mid and right lane Walker. Well, we can see both teams just kind of... I think they're waiting for a couple of big items to come through before they start to force these fights, because you just know with it being almost 20 minutes in, with the urn about to spawn in, if you take a fight now and you lose it, well, you're going to be losing a lot more than just your lives here. You're going to be losing a big lead. VP have already set themselves up with the, I mean, just how much kind of control they have around the map. I mean, you can see Abraham's a little bit scared to move around. On this left-hand side, they're sending 3 players. The mid lane, they have 2. They're not really contesting the jungle or even looking to contest the runes necessarily, because they're coming up in about, well, 6 seconds time.
Yeah, you gotta be very cautious not to lose a team fight at this point, as it can convert so easily into the mid boss. But with that said, VP on the jungle invade here might be looking to go for initiation up on the high ground once again. It's Demov now falling off of that high ground in response to the Abraham's team movement. Aware of the positioning of VP now. A big affliction. That's massive damage. Hyper beam up from above as well, being laid down across the team. And that's going to, once again, force VP to just have to fall back.
Yeah, that's all they can do. They had to give up the control of the urn. Maybe even lose a life or 2 as the air vent going to save Shark to get away towards the mid lane. Zerg is trying to push himself here on the right lane. Walker to get something out of this, even though they lost control of the Walker. But Gemsite confirms the kill on the Shark. That's a big ultimate now down. Maybe even a second as the Stone Telekinesis comes through out of Listic to save his life. And most certainly, this could turn into a mid-boss. This could easily turn into a free urn turn in, especially with the kill on the Zerg and another catch on the Obi Kim. This is most certainly going to be a mid-boss plus urn after.
This will be put.
Okay, well, the with the urn and mid-boss threat, it's certainly could be a huge swing here. You do have a couple players here from VP, in fact, all of the ones that are currently up, looking to... Are they going to try a steal here? That you can see a barrel, a keg getting thrown into the mid-boss. But it's not the kind of party keg. It's trying to do damage, and I don't think there's any damage to be done here. You've got, right now, just all of Abraham's ready to defend this. They're going to pick up the rejuve. It was a good attempt with what VP had, but it just wasn't enough.
Reju plus urn. This is probably the worst case scenario here for Virtus.pro. Trying to quickly take as much of the jungle as they possibly can. They know these lanes are going to be shoved in, and ideally it's going to be a left lane push on towards this Walker to get even more map control. The first urn for Abraham is going to be locked in. And I mean, Virtus.pro, it's going to be tough. At least the upside for them is they still have like Death Slam as a good deterrence away from this. But then again, like the Hook's task has been hitting. Whether it's on your Shark or it's on any other player, they're going to confirm that into a kill because they have so much to back that up with the telekinesis, with a stun out of 7. It's troubling times for VP, and honestly, I thought they would come back this week, much stronger than we saw in the past. But honestly, big credit to Abraham's to show they're not really just one tricks. Like they can play beyond that Calico Haze aggression, and it's not even necessarily Hoot the one leading the charge this week, which is honestly another great sign for the team, because for me, he was the only one really carrying the team through. It's been mostly tasked with these hooks. A lot of credit to Jamside and Sap as well on top of that, just putting out a ton of damage.
Yes. Well, I mean, ZP, Abrahams have managed to convert pretty well in I think a timing window you were saying they to convert, or rather VP had to avoid them converting on.
It's difficult now for VP, where VP now has to play even scrappier than they were before, really clutch on the idea of Demov getting a pick, and on top of it, I mean, the way some of these team fights have opened up have been tragic, where Hoot's been able to go in and get, 4-man plus affliction. So, I mean, VP has to play so delicately at the moment, even though you look at the aggregate and go, oh, it's kind of close. With the team comps being what they are, with the farm being what it is, VP is very against the wall. They're not out of it yet, but man, oh man, they have to dodge so many hazards here and thread the needle to give themselves a perfect team fight. Demov, by the way, just went for a lasso attempt and failed, so you're going to see Abrahams get way more aggressive in the next 60 seconds, because you only have to worry about the Demov pick threat here. It is all Abraham setting the tone with the Rejuvenator.
Oh, he was rolled into that one. I also do like just quickly that Saf is pushing the soul in on the right hand side, but also you had Listic matching it for the potential Traveler himself with the steal. A Frozen Shelter just to lock in the Storm Cloud so it doesn't do damage to the rest of the team. I don't hate it, but Virtus.pro, they set up for a fight off the back. This is the Death Slam going to coming through. It's only going to connect onto one though, as a Walker, I mean, it most certainly should be falling here with the rest of Abraham's pushing on through, but it's a 1-for-1 trade, and that's a trade Abrahams are more than happy to take.
Yeah, really looking to commit to this team fight, and it's not started super well. Lots of players are really low here. This could be anyone. 2 players down now for Abrahams. Despite the fact that they were all grouped up, it finally looks like VP are finding a great fight as a team here, rolling on through to back to be collected as well. What a huge pickup there for VP. This is a pivotal fight for them, and if they are to bring this one back, this is where it starts.
I don't even know how to break down that fight because you really couldn't see much of it with just Obikim locking out Saint. So he really couldn't do that much damage. And the Death Slam only catching one, but one's all they really needed as a way to just disable that Storm Cloud and disable that amount of damage and zone control that's going to give you in this fight. And it looks like just snowball the fight thereafter. Hoot only hitting a 2-man affliction. Abraham's looking really distraught in that fight. But VP, I mean, they might be down, but they're not out, and they're still an insanely good team fighting team. But with the rejuves coming back through, I mean, they still have 2 left alive for Abrahams, which means the lane's going to continue to shove. And Abrahams is already here ready to fight yet again for this next turn.
Oh, it looks like Saint might get caught again here. Able to escape. Teammates are able to, lend a hand there to protect him, stop him from going down. But that is the urn getting picked up there for VP in the midst of all of that. VP taking the fight just to try to control that urn. Now dispersing after they've managed to secure that objective. Although, of course, we've got a fight in the basement. It's just like some stragglers being caught here. And Big Kim is going to die. But the urn, wait, hang on. The urn got stolen back.
I actually don't know what happened. I thought that was going to be a clean turn-in.
Was that a tackle? What? What happened?
I mean, it wasn't. I think it was a Traveler to Saf because it's on cooldown, and then he got a catch onto Zergi, who's looking to run it away. And if anything, Abraham's now we're going to be able to secure this urn. And that fight they lost earlier on, it's not going to amount to much anymore because they're still going to maintain this lead now.
That's such a crazy steal, and it's another bite at the cherry here. As we go back into the left Walker push, but this time is actually going to go down. There's no defense to be mounted. And that is honestly so sad for VP. They invested a lot into securing that urn. It was looking great. I know, TP, did you see how that transpired?
I did not. I was responding to a message while that was going on from a player. So I was quickly not looking in that brief moment of time. So there's no reprieve for me.
Kind of ridiculous.
Saints, as it would happen.
Yeah, he's gonna go down here, so that's unfortunate for Abrahams, but a ridiculous like strong build out of Saf. Ricochet, Toxic Bullets, Siphon Life, and Sharpshooter. Like, it's so hard to fight again. He's gonna have a ridiculous amount of damage in these fights, and he's still at 32k. He's still so far ahead of most players on VP's side. If you look at the carries, I mean, Zergi's at 28, Michaela's at 25, only Demof's close at 30k, but he's not necessarily targeting to be too worried about beyond obviously the lasso. And even a curse has been picked up for Abraham's side.
Yeah, there's a lot available here for Abrahams. They even have the Hyper Beam as well if they want to control the space of this battlefield, but the Walker will go down anyway. And Virtus.pro actually escaping without anyone going down. Escaping unscathed. That's always really, really powerful. VP, we've talked about how they're a team that is perhaps one of the best at losing well. When they're behind, they're able to not allow their opponents to kind of rack up the advantage that quickly. So it allows VP more time to try to engineer scenarios in which they can come back. And again, it kind of feels like we're in that territory right now. The fact that they were able to snipe that mid Walker is pretty impressive.
I mean, it gives them also a much needed flex slot right now, which is going to be quite huge. But I think our focus is going to be on the rejuve. You see Obikim just trying to get close enough to it to make sure they can hear if it is being done. And I don't know if it's being done. I don't want to say it is. Just look at the minimap. And honestly, I think it'd be a very risky move to do right now. There's a knockdown picked up for Obikim to deal with Saint, but Saint does have Unstoppable. And they're not really in position, Abraham's here to even set up for a fight. You can see Jamside still farming at the jungle. 40,000 souls. He also has Leech picked up. It's gonna be a tough one here. I think Jamside and Saf are just so fed. And as Jake just pointed out, Saint has picked up Lightning Scroll too. So with Unstoppable plus Lightning Scroll, the stuns gonna facilitate even more opportunities for kills. Oh no.
Oh, engagement. There from the concussive combustion of Zergy. Stormcloud again to control the fight. These AoE ults. That's going to get shut down. A big damage on Ballistic, though. He's going to be taken out. And this fight is starting to could start to snowball out of control because everyone's getting critically low. Emov as well, down on 1%, and he's dead as well. And it's all being cleaned up. There's just one player left, Oberkim, who is trying to escape. I think must be ice pathing, looking at the speed he's moving on the mini-map. So Emov will escape.
I respect the stolen Stormcloud out of Listic there, but the rescue beam, you see right there the rescue beam, why it's so damn strong. Task gets caught out and they just rescue beam him away from the combustion, away from all the damage. He stays alive and Abraham's able to turn the fight around. Here we go, the rejuve, it's being contested. Oberkim throws down the frozen shelter to try to delay as long as he possibly can. It's gonna be flashbacks to the play breakdown Jake and ZP did, but Saint gonna confirm it once again and confirm 2 more kills on top of it. Abraham's now with all 6 alive and only Zergy left to defend, who's trying to push a walker while this is happening. Abraham's going to get a massive soul lead because they're also, it looks like, going for the urn off the back of this too at some point. But they can push the base guards. Another flex slot. They most certainly should be getting shrines here momentarily. And Zergy is just trying to take down this walker and finally gets it, but it's going to cost him his life.
Yeah, it's really rough. And given the fact that, you know, the first stage patron is probably going to go down, Zergy will at least respawn a bit faster because the first stage patron was going to go down no matter what happened. It's almost better that he died sooner than later at this point. There we go. First stage patron.
They can almost finish the game though. I mean, Zergy down 40 seconds. Everyone Abraham's alive. There's a Stormcloud's coming up in just a few seconds time. Like realistically, Abraham's could just go and win the game right here, right now if they wanted to. But they're turning the urn while all this is happening, and they're still pushing towards the base. D-Mug goes down from Saf, and that might have just been it. The push going to come through. They should be going for a Stormcloud on top of this to look for more kills. Hoot has fallen, but he has Rejuvenator, and they still have the mana advantage for Abraham's.
There we go. Stormcloud coming out to play here. Just over the top. Just chunking everybody as they try to defend in the pit, but it's just unstoppable. There's no one that can even focus on this. It's just ticking away, electrifying everybody as it is an electric finish here for Abraham's. Again, another solid performance from them, and they are the kings of Fight Night. Once again, they maintain their grip, their sweaty grip on the Fight Night belt.
You know, I think there's a lot of individual moments across this series here for Abraham's. I have to give a special shout out to like Saf and Janside in particular. I think this team has been lacking some like additional star power that was just, in my eyes, Hoot and Tass. But I think Saf on the Mirage in this series, Jamside on the Wraith this series, have proven they are forces to mess with. Like they had to have done some insane damage in this last match. And again, once again, as I said before, proving that Abrahams are beyond just a one-trick pony with their Calico and their Haze. I think that's one of the most impressive step-ups we've seen out of a team going into a week-to-week basis.
Totally. And with that said, it's time for the CP to slide back in and we can get his thoughts on the match. CP.
Yeah.
Combination.
I mean, when I'm looking at this year, I think the number one thing that VP is going to have to go back and look at is why they gave Abrahams so many tools that Abrahams is really, really confident with in the draft. I think, realistically speaking, the back half of the draft was a bit of malpractice coming in from VP because we knew we knew what they were going to pick. In this case, we knew for sure they were going to go for a Bebop. We knew with good likelihood Mirage Wraith were also going to come out, and nothing was done to contest these picks because you stop and think about perhaps weaknesses on the Abraham side. Does Jamside have as good of a game if you just grab Wraith in this situation? Probably not. But Abrahams was able to delay grabbing the Wraith because they knew as soon as Infernus got locked in, there was no world where VP, with their current drafting habits, was going to grab the Wraith. And that allowed them to get the Bebop too. And I don't know. I look at all of this and I think VP stuck a little bit too close to their game plan instead of respecting ways that they could have thrown a spanner into the plan of Abraham's. And I don't think it's a mistake VP will make 3 weeks in a row, but I do think there's going to be a very big shift and how they approach how to play Abrahams going forward.
Do you think we should just do a DFN, a special edition, where we draft for the teams?
That'd be too mean, to be honest, man. I would do some teams dirty for sure with that.
Yeah, McGinnis has played every game. Nice. All right. Yeah, we can't have that, can we? Well, with that, let's bring out the MVP. Who did you choose as the MVP ZP?
MVP, this one was difficult. Behind the scenes, there was half going for TAS, half going for Together. We settled on TAS as MVP, but really you can make a case for both. Okay, we got Together actually on this one. So we'll give them both their flowers though. Together, when I look at why this lineup worked for Abrahams, Shiv was the glue in both games, where, game one obviously was a little bit of the TAS show, but you think about game two, the early lane, Together was able to take over it on the Shiv, was able to be in the front line, and still a gigantic threat going in and out at the proper times, even without a whole lot of help. Because you look at what they ran in game two, it wasn't a particularly frontline heavy composition. They didn't have the Geist in game two, and Together was still very survivable on the Shiv, and also playing Shiv at a time where a lot of teams have given up on running Shiv earlier in the draft. Abraham's one team saying no, like he may have gone in lower priority for other teams, but for us, we still think he's good, and you don't get this level of performance without an exceptionally talented Shiv player. So I think Together's reliability has been really good for Abrahams, and you take a look at the fact that Abrahams has mostly been winning with Together on the Shiv. I think in terms of draft strategy, when VP looks at the next week, removing Shiv from the equation has to be a higher priority, either by picking it or banning it.
Yeah, fair assessment.
See, so you're saying they need to pick or ban the Shiv away from Abrahams. Just okay. But then, yeah, I mean, then obviously you have to kind of think about a rethink for VP side, as you mentioned before, of like, what do you do with this Wraith? Like, because you let Mirage and Wraith go through back-to-back games for Abrahams, and I mean, Safa Jam side have done a good amount of work in that series as well. Yeah, I mean, something to definitely look forward to, but at the end of the day, I'm still happy to see Abrahams like show they can play out different things and have different star power on a roster. And taking a look at like some of the post-match stats, you can see Michaelis just living in the jungle with most of his souls coming from neutrals, but also did the most damage in the game. But look at Jamside, 27k, Saf at 19k, and Together still sitting at 20k, which is damn impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. And I mean, Jamside was farming a storm just the entire time. It was interesting. It was kind of reminiscent to me of like, when we used to talk about hydronation in the old days with like hydration or Leffa, where they're just reliably, it's like a ticking time bomb. When you get to the late game, there's gonna be such a discrepancy. It's just already too late. And it kind of had that feeling with Jamside.
Yeah, and I mean, Jamside was able to just devour farm while the rest of Abrahams was able to make a great showing in just keeping presence on the map. And that's always something that can go a little bit under the radar, is the fact that, yeah, in the early game, Jamside was not in a lot of fights, but the rest of Abrahams was able to make the fights pretty competitive. And I think that probably doesn't happen. We haven't really talked about it in the post-wrap, but a lot of that doesn't happen without Hoot being a force on the pocket. Hoot was landing very high value afflictions. One of the ones we caught on camera was like a 4-man affliction at a very key middle fight. And as a result, if nothing else, even in fights where VP may have had a little bit of an edge, some of the pocket pressure that was coming in was just providing enough cover that VP couldn't chase down and stay in longer fights and punish Abrahams even when Jamside wasn't in the fight. So the comp Abrahams came up with here was really working on multiple ends.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with I think the Bebop ban, that kind of point in the draft, it did feel like that certainly was an inflection point, just like that back part of the draft. I can see that was something that you were chatting about as well, because we have this caster chat where we can chat to each other sometimes. And ZP was writing about that, and yeah.
I don't wait, actually, am I not in that group?
In this instance, Jason, I think you're mostly chatting to yourself, actually. I think,
my daily life.
Yeah, he's like, why am I saying this?
Jason needs a friend.
I'm your friend, Jason. I don't know if I'm a good choice, but
I'll take it. Just give me some
maybe you should keep waiting.
I'll help you spot your 90 pound incline bench presses.
90 kilos. My God, that'd be pretty insane.
Well, you know what? If I'm not mistaken, we also do have an interview with someone from Abrahams And it's not who, which is kind of get to know a lot more of the players around the world when it comes to Deadlock. And I believe it's with Saint, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, hello guys.
Hello, welcome to the show, Saint. Congratulations on your victory once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you guys have been able to defeat VP back-to-back twice now, and it seems like you kind of have them figured out. To us, it looked like VP are not drafting correctly against you guys. Is that your take as well?
I think, yeah, their biggest problem is their draft. On first map, they just underrate the Geist. And on the second map, I don't know, we have bad draft, but we have really good map control, and we just destroyed 2 walkers and win the game because of this.
One of the things I feel like you guys have really improved on, and it shows, is what was it, the turning point for Abrahams in your macro play, where I feel like your first iterations, obviously it was kind of a throw together from multiple teams, and you guys are making errors, but now I look at you guys are willing to take way better trades, and there are points in this game where you guys would give up multiple kills, but in return be like, hey, Jamside's getting really really large as a result. Who's making these shot calls in game right now? Is there a particular player, or is it just kind of a full team effort?
I don't know how to say it in English, but we have structure. Like, everybody is doing their job. Like, everybody know what they should do, where they should be, and yeah. And
so kind of like protocols. Like, if this happens, I know what I should be doing. My teammate knows what they should be doing when that happens, type of thing. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have calls. Like, for example, me calling mid boss, rejuvenator, Saf is calling maybe some rotations, but almost for the whole time, everybody know what to do. Like, we don't have like in-game leader. Everybody called. No.
Awesome,
Saint,
I love that.
How you doing, man? I'm gonna ask that first. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm a little bit nervous because my English is very, very bad.
Your English is way better than my Russian, I'll tell you that. I have to ask you this though. You're slowly becoming one of my favorite support players because you have a lot of these really high impactful ultimates. I can think of a Dynamo ultimate you had a few weeks back where you caught out 5 players. I can think back to last week where you had an amazing frozen shelter at the Rejuvenator to lock that in and to steal out of yourself. I want to know, you as a player who's filling the support role for Abrahams, how do you approach the game and how do you approach the game with your team and what you're doing for your roster?
What does it mean approach? Can you explain?
So what's your view on how to play support as a player, and what's your view on how you play support within your team?
I think my view is how to play support is to play aggressive. Maybe that's the reason why I'm good at this. Because when I was watching Flammable and Obicum demos, they playing I don't know, pussies. They are scared of something. And I have switched maybe 2 roles. I was playing semi-core, I was playing catch, Paradox, Holiday. Now I'm playing support, and I think all of this are giving me the game view that helps me to, I don't know, find the moments to ulti.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a lot of them even in this series, your 7 plays, especially picking up Lightning Scroll towards your final push on VP was huge. There was nothing they can do to those stuns. But yeah, I just wanted to say, man, you're definitely becoming one of my favorite supports. You have so many high impactful ultimates, and it's great to see because I'm getting tired of talking about only Obikin.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I want to, as the final question from me, I'm curious about, to learn more about your team. So which player tilts the most on your team?
Tells? What?
Tilts, gets angry, gets pissed off.
It's probably me.
For you?
Okay.
Who's the relaxed guy that it's just really
relaxed?
Stable?
I don't know. Probably Tas or Hood.
Nice. Oh, by the way, the Bebop play I thought was Chef's Kiss. I thought that was beautiful. So thanks for the Bebop play. I just remembered that. I wanted to thank you about that.
I have one final question. If we're asking for player tendencies, how much sleep did Jamside get today, and how worried are you about Jamside's sleep schedule any given Wednesday?
I think Jamside sleeps enough. I don't know, maybe it's some joke in chat, maybe some joke, I don't know. He have a good sleep schedule.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us, and congrats again. I can't wait to see you winning next week.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста, спасибо.
Ooh. Spasiba.
Yeah.
Come on, ZP, you got to practice your Russian. It's time.
Oh, no.
Russian
I'm
for taking
good.
the Deadlock.
I know what I can do and I know I can't do, and I cannot do Russian. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, we'll let you go. Saying thank you again. And for us, we're going to be switching into the North American region. It's that time again. But we have, you know what, Jason? I feel like you're the mastermind behind the zany content that we do here at Deadlock. So I think it's only fair that you introduce what the viewers are about to feast their eyes on.
Okay, well, you guys in chat, like every week we have a special video for you guys. This week, it's about how well do our contestants know the sounds from Deadlock. But the caveat is they're all made by a mysterious pro player. And those contestants are your own DDK, ZP, and Jake. So let's find out how they did on the other side of the break. We'll come back with North American Deadlock.